Hi, I'm Craig Burton. Thanks for coming along and checking out the Fat Burning Solution for Men presentation. So here's my promise to you. If you follow the strategies I'm about to share with you, then you'll completely transform your body, health, and the way you feel about yourself. Now that's not an empty promise, but what I do for a living and have for over 15 years now. Helping coach people from all walks of life to achieve their dream body is my job and my passion. So who's this presentation for? Well, sure, any male who wants to lose 10 pounds or 100 pounds will get a lot out of this presentation. But I'm really speaking to those of you that are not after the standard approach that says to lose weight, you have to excessively exercise and or do an extreme diet. I want you to know that if you've tried this and it didn't work, then it wasn't your fault. And I really mean that. It wasn't your fault. The program was flawed. Like a mechanic trying to fix an engine with the wrong tools. Try as hard as you want. If the tools don't match the job requirements, it won't work. And you're liable to break something. Now I think most of us guys have tried at one stage or another to fix something with force and have not been happy with the outcome. As I say to clients, willpower alone will only get you so far. So in my experience, after successfully transforming countless people from all walks of life, I've got a good idea of what works and what doesn't. But let me take a moment to share some real-life examples of guys I've helped to achieve permanent fat loss. This is Rob. Now for some of you, this may seem extreme, but in 4 months, he actually lost 40 kilos, or about 88 pounds. Now I know what you're thinking, that either can't be true, or it can't be healthy. In true, if anyone's interested, I can send you to a blog. You can have a look at my Unique 3 website and see testimonial and photos connected with his link to a forum. The other people who are after, is it healthy? Absolutely. As I tell clients, fat loss is one side effect of achieving optimal health. So the program needs to support your body and not drain it through excessive exercise and malnourishment, as many others do. And that's my problem with the standard approach. They basically drain the body. This is the only way a person can lose that amount of weight in that short period of time. Rob's overall health had been declining ever since he left Canada for Munich several years ago. And he was having infections and colds regularly every 2 to 3 months and taking antibiotics, but the infections kept reoccurring. So the first step that I had Rob do was go to the doctor and get a full blood work taken. And this showed high inflammation and a very low vitamin D score. Now these two factors that jumped off the page were part of the reason why he had a poor immune system with the regular infections, and that was actually connected to his weight gain. So his program was first focused on correcting nutritional imbalances and hormones through correct nutritional choices, specific supplements, light movement, and a supportive lifestyle. I mean, imagine saying to someone so fatigued, go jogging and go and do it for hours on end. That's the only way to lose weight. That is just rubbish. And it's just this advice that's so sadly common amongst most so-called professionals. You don't have to kill yourself exercising while eating like a rabbit to lose weight. Now I'm sure a lot of you, probably the majority, still think you're overweight because you're lazy. Now that may be the case. You may be lazy. And don't get me wrong, movement belongs in our life. That's just common sense. And Rob just thought like that too. So he was quite shocked when I said to him he could only walk for the first few months and do stretches. And yet he lost 10 kilos in that first month while only doing the walking and stretches. Instead, I got him to invest his limited spare time in preparing good meals, relaxing more, and really starting to take care of his body. Now, is this approach for everybody? Of course not. Some of you are ready to exercise, and even quite intensively. But my point is that you first need to start through supporting the body and not destroying it. And this is what I call finding your unique program, which is one that gets the result but matches your individuality. But here's the great part. You don't need a sports science or nutrition degree or anything else to find this out. You just need to learn some foundations and then know how to adapt your program according to your results. And most personal trainers and nutritionalists actually give out the same workout nutritional plans without teaching a person how to personalize it. So what I'm about to teach you means you don't need to pay big bucks for them anymore. But let me take you to the next example. Sebastian, well, he lost about 50 kilos in 1 year. so about 110 pounds. Now, Sebastian's dad asked me to help him out as he was a young man finishing college, and being obese is not only unhealthy but would affect his job prospects. Now, I'm always worried about a client when someone else has sent them to me, whether it's a partner or a parent, because the bottom line is, if you don't have the desire to change and a strong purpose with what you want to achieve, then you won't achieve a thing. And that's why most people in the gym fail, because they do empty workouts. They think they're going in doing something, but they're really just slipping from machine or exercise to exercise, just this mindless training. So just turning up and going through the motions without having a purpose. So when it came to Sebastian, we first started with his mindset. We got him clear with what he wanted, not his parents or his friends, but what he wanted. Now, fortunately, he wanted to change for some really strong reasons. And the stronger the reason, the better. So after he got clear with exactly what he wanted and what he didn't want, we set about designing his program. You see, without the right purpose, even the best diet and exercise plan in the world will fail because you won't follow through on it. The key to long-term success is following a program that gets results, matches your personality and your circumstances so that you can integrate it into your life. You've got to own this program, and this ownership leads to a person taking responsibility for their actions, or as I say, becoming accountable. You see, most people try a diet book or exercise program, and instead of first thinking whether the program is right for them and how they can integrate it into their lives permanently, they try it for a while. At the stage of boredom, they pull out. So here's what you need to do. You need to find a program that works and be critical from the beginning. So before you've even started the program, not while doing it, look for legitimate testimonials, question the foundations of the program. Now, if the program appears good, then ask yourself, is it right for you? Because there's more than one way to skin a cat. Think about all your circumstances and factor them in. Ask yourself, how would you incorporate it? And make any major adaptations to the program, still get you a result, but fit you. Then what you need to do is stick with the program for a designated time period. Now, I recommend giving it at least 4 to 6 weeks before any thoughts of dropping it. I mean, yes, small tweaks are okay along the way, but once you start, don't stop until the time frame is up and measure those results. Now, that makes sense, doesn't it? But that's essentially what I do. Match the program to the person and check the results constantly. And this is Douglas, who lost 30 kilos, or about 64 pounds in 1 year. Now, Douglas came to see me after trying a number of diets, weight loss, exercise programs, even hypnosis. Now, some of them worked a little, helping him lose a few kilos here and there, but nothing stuck. And when I first met Douglas, it was immediately clear of the failure of these approaches. You see, they were all one-dimensional, a bit like the machines in the gym. Now, these machines train isolated muscles, so good luck training all 650 plus muscles in your body. But this one-dimensional type of training can lead to postural imbalances and potential injuries, which is a good metaphor for this isolated approach to fat loss. Just as the body essentially knows only movement patterns, which means groups of muscles working together synergistically to produce actions like pushing and pulling and twisting, lunging, bending, squatting, permanent fat loss success is a team effort. So what did I do for Douglas? We came up with a plan integrating as many fat-burning approaches that matched his lifestyle and personality as possible. Now, I'm going to get to them in a moment, but it was a case of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. It should make sense that there are so many ways to achieve fat loss through nutrition, movement, lifestyle, and it was a case of matching the right actions to Douglas. And that's how he achieved his ideal body and a level of health, vitality and fitness most men 10 years younger would be envious of. So what do you need to do? You need to find a program that works, number 1. You need to ask yourself, is it right for you? And number 3, you need to stick with it for a designated time. Follow these 3 rules and you are guaranteed success and permanent success. So let me just take a moment to introduce myself and why I think you should listen to me as I go into these processes and these parts into more detail. First of all, I've dedicated over 15 years of study to the practical aspects of training, nutrition, and the mind. I started with a sports science degree in psychology. Despite a sports science degree, I've not been one of the ones, as many of my colleagues have, that think that I understand it all and I get it. And I've been constantly trying to correct and improve my approach and learning from the best in the world when it comes to corrective exercise, proper training that gets results for fat loss, plus also massage therapy, nutritional coaching, anything to do with making the body leaner, stronger, and healthier. So you could say I have a thirst for knowledge and a need to continually do my job better. But knowledge is one thing, and knowing how to apply it is another. And that's why so many of my college lecturers were poor examples of health and fitness. They could not apply their principles, or for some of them, their principles were flawed. But isn't that typical today? How many health professionals like nutritionists, trainers, doctors, nurses are glowing examples of health and fitness? One of my better teachers once made a comment that has stuck with me ever since. He said, if you're in this industry and you're embarrassed to take your shirt off, then you shouldn't be in it. You need to be a reflection of your methods. Now that may seem extreme, but if you're seeking fat loss, shouldn't the coach or trainer be an example of what is possible following their advice? Now you may not want to go as far as some of them, but if they say their program burns fat, then shouldn't they be really lean? Here's a recent photo of me if you're curious if what I preach works in burning fat. So what results can you expect when you follow the strategies I'm about to outline? Well, there's always a range between results depending on starting body fat levels, but as a minimum, you can expect in the next 30 days to take off 5+ centimeters off the waist. For those whose body fat levels are over 15%, you could look at 3+% body fat. And for a lot of people who are looking at scales, about 4+ kilos of fat is possible. Say this, imagine 30 days from now putting on pants that are so loose that you dropped 5+ centimeters off your waist. I mean, how would that make you feel? Imagine how that would cross over into the rest of your life. So I hope I got your attention. So let's get started, because I'm about to reveal the secrets to success. In order to transform your body, health, and the way you feel about yourself, you need to integrate 3 fundamental areas: movement, nutrition, and motivation, or this motivational mindset. Let me break it down. And we're going to start with movement. Here are the 3 keys I introduce to all clients who want the most effective fat burning training plan. Number 1, focus on resistance exercise to increase lean muscle mass. Now that can mean body weight exercises, free weights like dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, club bells, or whatever homemade tools you can make or find like iron bars and heavy buckets. The key is to consistently challenge your body more, or progression as we call it. Most people don't get results in the gym because they stick to the same 3 sets of 10 repetitions program for month on end. You've got to track your results and see that you are getting stronger every week and every month. Second, choose cardiovascular activities that support resistance training. And the key is support and not take over. If you like jogging, okay, go for it. But if your jogging cuts into resistance training time and energy, then it's no longer supporting it. So why is resistance training more important than cardio? Well, I'll give you 3 reasons. The more lean muscle you have, the more calories you burn 24/7. So the higher your metabolic rate. The more lean muscle you make, the more sensitive you are to insulin, which means you need less insulin to balance blood sugar. And that means less body fat storage. And the more muscle you have, the greater the storage site for that excess sugar eaten, rather than being converted to fat. But cardio plays many important roles, so I'm not of the camp that says don't do any. It's more a case of which ones should I do, or which ones are the best for me. And that's why I'm a big fan of interval training, because I believe from a time perspective and a results perspective, it is the most effective. And that can mean jumping rope, that can mean short sprints, that could mean doing some boxing of 1 minute on, 1 minute off. But this sort of method is the most effective type of cardio training. Now the third part, correct muscle imbalances and address posture. Now we do that through effective stretching and joint mobilization exercises. Exchanging excess body fat for the posture of the standard 90-year-old well, that may not be worth the effort, and your likelihood of getting injured is considerably higher without including stretching and mobility exercises. So that's why it's integral to this movement plan. So number 1, focus on resistance exercise. Number 2, choose cardiovascular activities that support resistance training. And number 3, correct muscle imbalances and address posture. Let's move on now to nutrition. Now, every diet out there consists of manipulating one or more of these 3 parts: the type of food, the macronutrient ratio, and manipulating calories. Let me go into that. The type of food. Now let me give you examples of this from current diets. For instance, we've got paleo style eating, which focuses on removing grains, dairy, processed food. People get a great result following close to that method, but it gets to a point where they often plateau, and this is where you need to look at the other parts. So when it comes to addressing individuality, I'm talking at the moment about the macronutrient ratios, meaning the ratios of carbohydrates to fat to proteins. We've seen diets out there like low-carb diets or zone diets or metabolic typing diets. Now, when it comes to calorie manipulation, there's more than one way to do it. There's the standard way of taking, say, 10-20% off your calories, which means you've got to record your diet, which is, in my opinion, very, very important. And the clients that record their diet are always the ones who get better results. Or it could mean things like intermittent fasting or extending fasting periods, which I'm going to talk about later. So these are the 3 possible dietary avenues that you can manipulate. Now, in my opinion, wouldn't you want to incorporate all 3 as much as possible to get the best result? It just makes common sense. So let me take a moment to go further into the actual things that I recommend. Now, when it comes to the type of food, as I said, I often recommend close to a paleo style of eating. But let me give some examples and let me give some ideas. I recommend, if possible, shop at a local farmer's market and eat as clean as you can. So let's start lots of fibrous vegetables. The bottom of any food pyramid, in my opinion, should be vegetables. Then we've got lots of quality proteins, and like I said, aim for free range, wild animals, fish, and getting good fats and oils and proteins from nuts and seeds. If you choose beans and lentils, some of you work well with beans and lentils or can take it. Some others, like myself, aren't so good with beans and lentils, but definitely soak them beforehand and soak and sprout them. When it comes to dairy, choosing better sources, so lacto-fermented dairy like kefir and natural yogurt instead of milk, which is just a dead product. Now, when it comes to low-carb diets, I actually don't think they're necessary. I think that starches should be a valuable component, especially when you're exercising, and there are some definite better starches than others. So sweet potatoes, for instance, are a great starch, and non-gluten grains like quinoa, which is a high protein count for a grain, is also a good starch. It's just starches and carbohydrates are a double-edged sword. Too little, and you can cause some energy problems, and you won't build that muscle. Too much, and you will gain body fat. And then fruits, choosing low fructose fruits like berries, which have a high nutrient value. Finally, I just want to include water because I consider water as part of nutrition. So start the day, I always say, with rehydrate the body after overnight it's been dehydrated. So start with a couple of glasses of water and basically drink till your urine is clear, which may mean 2 to 3 litres per day depending on how much exercise and the weather. So those recommendations should serve as the backbone of any fat loss nutritional program. Here's some of the things that I recommend you limit. Sugar. That's obvious, right? Processed foods. So the more man touches a food, often the worse it gets. So watch out for those supermarkets. Intolerant foods. For instance, once a client takes away gluten grains, the results just accelerate. For a lot of people, dairy also causes a problem. Like I said, beans and lentils can cause a problem. The other thing is bad fats. So vegetables like canola oil, which inflame the body. Let me move specifically now to addressing your individuality. Many diet books say you just need to eat the right foods and as much as you like, and you'll achieve success. Now that's a step in the right direction, but what does your common sense say? Do you really think eating a bag of almonds, and almonds are great food, with brown rice, lentils, lots of sweet potatoes, do you think that'll work? Well, for a lot of you, no. So you need to eat the right foods, but in the right allocation. So not only do foods influence hormones, but their proportions also do. Now this is where individuality comes into it, with some people needing more protein and fat and others needing carbohydrates. What you've got to do is you've got to find what's the right mix for you. Now I recommend with all my clients starting what I call a three-way split and then adjusting it from there depending on your results and how you feel. This means is getting between 30 to 40% of each of the macronutrients. So for a lot of people, it means increasing your protein quite a lot, because I see a lot of people coming in eating only 10% protein. So this is again where you need to record. Now I know what you're thinking, oh no, I don't have time to use those food diaries and fill them out. And this expert said I didn't need to count calories or I didn't need to watch that, I just need to watch the foods. But don't let those experts fool you. You may only need to record what you eat for 1 to 2 weeks to get an understanding of what your body needs. But not paying attention to the ratios, especially at the start, will simply limit your potential results. So let's move to the third part, calorie manipulation. And let me first set the record straight when it comes to calorie manipulation, because so many experts say counting calories is a waste of time. Well, in my opinion, they are if you only count calories and continue to eat processed, sugar-laden and inflammatory foods. 200 calories or 300 calories from fish is very different to the same amount of calories from white bread. Now that's just obvious, but sadly a lot of nutritionists don't get that and still think, no, it's all about the calories. Food acts like messengers and has a profound effect on our physiology, including our hormones that help us lose body fat. But here's the key. Once you're eating real food, as I outlined, it's important to keep check and see that you're in a deficit. Now, like many things, it's all about the specifics. So watch out for broad statements like calories don't count, because they do. Now, as previously stated, there are various methods to manipulate calories. Which method to use depends again on your own health, circumstances, and personal preference. One simple rule I use is any male over 20% body fat actually doesn't need any more extreme manipulation method like intermittent fasting, as they can generally get a great result by first cleaning up their diet and trying to get the macronutrient ratios more balanced, which will result in most cases an unconscious calorie reduction as they feel more full and satisfied. But if you do use intermittent fasting to manipulate calories, then like myself and so many male clients, you'll realize the job of getting lean gets so much easier. It actually allows you to be less strict with diet and exercise. For many of you, intermittent fasting really goes against the grain when it comes to health and fat loss, and is still seen by many as a fad because it questions the common standard that the best dietary approach is to eat small meals more often. I used to recommend that, but it was not only less satisfying, these small meals, but keeping track of what I ate became a real hassle. There's also a lot of science now showing the health benefits of fasting, including the positive effect on hormones like insulin in balancing blood sugar. But it should make sense. Do we really need to eat every 2 to 3 hours upon waking? Are we that sensitive, or do we exercise that much? This notion would have seemed silly to our great-grandparents or our grandparents, let alone our ancestors 10,000 years ago. I hope you're now thinking again, this is common sense, and stop listening to the so-called experts making bold claims that is only about the foods or only about the calories. That one-dimensional thinking may get you a result, but much less than what you could have achieved when you were thinking three-dimensional and working three-dimensionally. So let's move to the third part now. Motivation. Now I outlined 7 keys to creating a motivational mindset in my program. But if you pay constant attention to these 3, then you'll have an unshakable drive to achieve your goals. Number 1, clearly know what you want and why you want it. The why gives meaning and substance, and without it, just saying I want to lose 10 kilos is an empty wish. You need to see and feel the benefit of this physical transformation. Maybe it's feeling better taking your shirt off at the beach. Maybe it's feeling attractive to your partner or feeling more comfortable in social situations. You need to be clear to define what is the motivation to lose weight. Number 2, know what you don't want. What scares you and upsets you with not achieving your goal? What will you miss out on? like not playing sport or being with your kids or friends. The other question is, if you just continue the present course, what will you look and feel like 10 years from now? So first, be specific with what you want, be clear with why you want it, and second, build up the motivation by knowing what you don't want. And the third part is make yourself accountable daily. You need to learn and realize that permanent fat loss is about being in complete control of the outcome by controlling the choices that you make. Accountability starts by committing to a goal and the actions you have assigned to achieving it, then taking personal responsibility to complete these actions daily. So master these 3 mindset elements and you will be unstoppable and well on your way to achieving your dream body. But before I wrap up, I want to reveal to you 2 other elements to the fat loss game. The first is undervalued and the second is overlooked. Now the first element is just as important as the previous things I spoke about. And if you get enough of this, you will accelerate your fat loss by at least 25%, if not more. Know what it is? Want to have a guess? Let me share with you a quote from a fat loss expert that discusses its contributing role. If your goal is to lose body fat, skipping X is like poking sticks in your bicycle wheels. Now that came from study director Plamen Peneth, medical doctor and PhD, whose study was published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. The message for people trying to lose weight is clear, he said. For the first time we have evidence that X makes a big difference on the results of dietary interventions. So what is X? As many of you may have guessed it, it's sleep. Some other things. In a study involving 9,000 people between 1982 and 1984, researchers found that people who averaged 6 hours of sleep per night were 27% more likely to be overweight than their 7 to 9 hour counterparts. And those averaging 5 hours of sleep per night were 73% more likely to be overweight. How could sleep be so powerful? Well, it's a lot to do with balancing hormones. Because sleep has such a dramatic effect on hormones like insulin, leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, thyroid stimulating hormone, growth hormone, all of which profoundly influence fat gain. Now these hormones not only affect fat production, but they also promote excess eating, with the body losing the sense of enough is enough, or in other words, feeling full. Now the second element that you should pay attention to is virtually never included in any fat loss program. And just like inadequate sleep that promotes the stress hormone cortisol, this element also calls up cortisol, but uses cortisol as an anti-inflammatory. Any ideas? Well, it's germs. Pathogenic bacteria, fungi, viruses, parasites that lead to infections and inflammation. This diagram comes from Russ Farris, and it's at the potbellysyndrome.com. He goes on to state, an infection causes inflammation, which the body then produces cortisol to reduce the inflammation, and this excess cortisol leads to metabolic disorders like obesity and diabetes, just as stress has, so it's another stress on the body. So what should we do to deal with germs and reduce infections? Well, I personally recommend most clients explore the use of natural antipathogens and simultaneously introduce good bacteria or probiotics. There's a lot of studies out there that have just shown by taking probiotics, you lose weight. Now, while I could include more fat loss strategies in this presentation, if you can address the ones I've mentioned, you're guaranteed fat loss success. Now, some of you may be able to take this information and run with it, needing no further support to achieve your destination. If that's you, then I'm happy to have shared this information with you, and I sincerely wish you good luck. But for those of you who would like to learn more about the finer details and exactly how I execute this with clients, then I'd love to show you. Because I know having someone coach you through the process with a step-by-step plan can make all the difference. And that's someone who obviously has done countless times and has put a roadmap in place. So if you'd like to learn more, please go to the link men.unique/3.com, and there you can find the fat burning solution for men. Now you can also find me on Facebook and Twitter, where I provide more information and a lot of tips and strategies to losing body fat. So I want to just say thanks for listening to the presentation, and like I said, I wish you all the best in your fat loss endeavors.